As I mentioned in the opening, I've had a chance to be with the group, talk about customer success. I work for Microsoft. I've been with them for 5 years. What I've learned in customer success is there's two kinds of gauges to look at. There's the consumption side of a SaaS product, and then there's the active usage side of a SaaS product, right? I am on the consumption side of it in the world of Microsoft. We also have the active usage side, but I focus on the consumption side. And what I have to do is find the common denominator to figure out why somebody will talk to me. I'm customer success. I'm in that, like the stepchild zone of being from a seller and a delivery. I'm right there. Like I have to add some value to why somebody would talk to me. And the way I've done that is focusing on the customer's outcome. Nobody's going to buy a product, either be Microsoft or Salesforce, what we may use. They will not do it unless they have an outcome they want to achieve. The sooner you understand that is success for you. And I have to be in the delicate situation where a lot of my customers are creating products for their customers. So sometimes I have to go 2 steps ahead to figure out what their customer's success is for you to continue to use a lot of mine, because I'm in the consumption business. For example, I won't name drop the social media, but they use a lot of our servers and data centers. If they're not getting a lot of people using their social media platform, they're not consuming my product. Therefore, I'm not going to have a good customer success conversation with my sponsor or buyer. So I need to know what they're not getting. A real example of this is a streaming media platform came to us and said, hey, our competition is taking our lunch money. What can Microsoft do for us? And we had never gone down that path before. It was like, we're not streaming people. We don't know what you're talking about. So they helped us develop product that they would use so that we could make them get off their competition's product, because the competition was now taking lunch money. It's kind of like FedEx and Amazon. You know, Amazon delivers products through their own freight systems. FedEx is not happy about it. So FedEx said, hey, we got to stop using anything that Amazon has alignment to, which is AWS if you're a public cloud company. So we need to get off that platform, right? That's why you'll never get an Amazon delivery from FedEx. It comes with UPS now, or their own systems. So think of it that way. So I have to look at my customers' success for that. So I'm going to talk about the why and the how in the context of my world, but some of these are foundational and they have added value. So I have to add value with the obsession in mind. I have to think of that, and I have to create that with trust. And you know, Microsoft is not a startup. We've been around for 47 years. Well, we've sucked at that. We've messed up a few times, right? So we have to earn the trust. And that trust is, it's almost a currency. If you're not focused on, you will lose it, and you'll never get it back. And then there's companies that have come after Microsoft that exist today because they exploited the trust part. And empowerment, whatever you're giving them away, you know, Harris had a great point of the product enablement and all that. If whatever it is, if you're not empowering them with some purpose behind it, it won't work. Today at Microsoft, we think about achieving more, but now we added a new one, do more with less. So one part of my job now has to be thinking of a customer trying to do more with less in the current economic situation, right? We can't just go say, buy more, buy more, buy more. We have to say, you bought some, let's try to see if you're using it for the right purpose. Maybe we take some back and give you something different. And that is also a mindset that customer success organization has to work on. And I'm happy to see people like Harris and Guide CX actually creating methodologies behind optimization and doing more with less. And David talked about that. You know, you can go have a shrink conversation. It's not going to be a challenge. And the places where those challenges come in is like if you're a part of an organization that's always driven revenue, and you're forecasting their revenue, your sales leader is going to say, why is this going down? It has to go up. So you're artificially forcing a market condition for you to go sell more stuff that a customer may not need, versus you actually have to be obsessed with the customer's outcome and have that difficult conversation with your sales leader saying, look, the world has changed, kind of like the travel industry. It's not going to happen. So no matter how much you want me to do this, it's not going to work. I put this in for reference. This has changed quite a bit, but this was the foundational guidelines that CS started with about 15 years ago, depending on when the first SaaS product really came to be and how we started branding it. This is not gospel, nor is it set in stone. There are models that only use 3 circles. There's some that use 4. Some use more than 7 or 9, whichever, how many I have on this. But this is foundational, and I'm glad Harris dropped ChatGPT. If you go to ChatGPT right now and say the foundational pillars of customer success, you may only get the enablement, maybe onboarding and retention circles, and there's going to be a whole bunch of other things. So it depends on the kind of industry you are. But the idea here is to get the customer to use your product, have a great engagement with that product for the customer, and their experience matters, so some way to count that experience. CRM is common sense. You have to know who they are, what they're doing, whatnot. Product value realization, metrics and measurement, this depends on the kind of product you have in the market. And the retention, that's why those are bolded for me. That's important. You have to understand it's all about the customers. If you look at this way I have it laid out, 5 of the things are customer oriented. You have to have that focus to have the great experience your customers are looking for. So where do I live? This is my thought leadership. I put this in after experiencing the work that I've done for the last 5 years in customer experience. I come from a professional services background, strategy consulting. I have an ex-colleague of mine here. We should do this. We should tell things for our customers to do differently. So I took that mindset as like, where do we live? And this is the Venn diagram right in the middle. And depending on what kind of Venn diagram you have, sometimes that's CS is very small, sometimes it's very big, sometimes the business development revenue circles are overwhelmed by customer success, so it depends where you want to live. We can live in business development. There are some companies that do that. CS is a part of business development. Sales org try to own it. Sometimes they say, hey, it's a part of my sales, I'm going to be on the CRO, we're going to take it and keep it. I don't think it's a good place to be. Revenue marketing, same thing, like, go sell stuff. So you really shouldn't be called customer success. You should be sales augment. I'm like, you're trying to go make money with customer success. Sometimes not the best thing to do in the kind of product you have. And then the product, it can be a part of engineering. They have their own variation of customer success. There's product managers that have that customer success mindset, but they're really product oriented, right? They're looking at the feature. And I know this at Microsoft, what happens is we have different SKUs, a lot of different things. We sell so many things. I will have the customer success product manager call me up and say, hey, what can you do to drive my SKU up? And I'll say, you know what? Microsoft has 5 things that look alike. So you're basically saying, pick yours over the other one that also does what you want. Like talk about databases. We have many variations of your databases. Why should I tell you to go Microsoft SQL over Cosmo DB? I need to know the purpose. So if a customer success product manager with that mindset calls me and says, push more Cosmo DB, I'm saying, no, I'm going to push more SQL. There's a conflict there. So you can't live in the product area. So you have to live in that little nexus of it. So what does it mean? Well, the first thing you need to be is get a seat at the table. It has to be a C-suite level conversation. You can't have a CFO and a CEO and a chief legal person and then have CS buried under revenue. You have to have a seat at the table. So if you're building from the ground up, that's the value prop a startup needs to have. It has to be from day one. You can't have it an afterthought. And there's a lot of legacy companies that have created customer success as an afterthought. And those customers are the ones that least providing value through their customer success organization because they're sales augment or marketing augment, whatever it may be. So that's one of the things that I look at. You have to have customer success stand on its own, otherwise it's not going to work. And there are tools and processes available today that do that. And that's an ecosystem that helps us automate some of this responsibility and be measurable. That's the biggest part. How do you measure it? And there's different ways to think of that measurement. So the bonding agent, the tools and processes should do, in my opinion, these 5 things for you, right? You should have a process and a tool that drives retention. That's the whole idea. You want your customers to keep coming back to you. So no matter what you do, if you build your own tools or spreadsheets or you use products like GuideCX or otherwise, Gainsight, you are trying to retain those customers. It's a very volatile commodity. Products are easily replaced in the world of SaaS, depending what it is. You also want to have an ability for renewal. You want them to come back all the time, right? You want them to have an opportunity to build loyalty, essentially, build that trust and loyalty for you to want that. We live in the world of tech. You're an iPhone user or an Android user. I'm like, there's loyalty behind that thought process. I'm an Android person. You could never make me want to buy an iPhone, but I have an iPad. Yeah, I have that. I use that for other things, but not going to be an iPhone person. So you have to have the ability for renewing that conversation through your products. Customer lifetime value, this is where I live a lot. I'm going to use an example that's not technology oriented, but to drive that impact of what it is. And if you attended one of these in the past, it's a repeat, so I apologize. I'm recycling some content here. But customer lifetime value is the loyalty that I learned when I was a consultant. They fall in love with the consultant, and you could change companies and they'll still come back to you and want that service. So you have to build that customer service loyalty through the customer lifetime value. They'll always go to you if they want something out of it. Active usage is an important term. It's become more valuable today. You have to have products that are used, right? So you have to have a tool that makes you measure that effectively, get the information of metrics behind it, product engineering hooks for backlog items. Active usage will be that tool. So if you have a CS organization and you're not doing active usage metrics, you're probably on the consumption side, but that's a different kind of active usage you're looking for. You have to have something that does that, and you have to have churn mitigation. Why? You want to know why customers are leaving you. It's too expensive, so there's a metric for that. It doesn't do what I need to do, so you should have some kind of a feedback loop for that. It doesn't work for the things I need. Their customer objective has changed, so they're leaving their products. You have to understand product development life cycle. So these, if you can capture these things through a tool, either you built it yourself or you acquired one from the market, it will get you where you need to do from customer success perspective. So I'm going to use this customer lifetime value example. It's a coffee shop example, and I say this with premise. I used to live in Boston area, Boston and East Coast. Majority of you, if you live there, is big Dunkin' Donuts territory, especially Massachusetts. I used to drive 8 miles to get my Starbucks coffee. While in my neighborhood, there were 3 Dunkin' Donuts. I didn't care. I would drive to the Starbucks, right? And you have to think about it. So there's, let's say there's a coffee shop in a building in one of these campuses, and the coffee shop owner wants to figure out how to get more people to buy more product, right? So if an office goer every day morning, right before they get into the elevator banks, buys a cup of coffee for $4 5 times a week, you're making $80 for the month. And the specialty latte buyer might come around and say, hey, you don't want to buy some new stuff here once in a while, but it's expensive, right? So lattes are expensive in context to the cup of coffee. They may only buy it 3 times a week in that context of $96. So even though the lesser volume gives this coffee shop owner more money, if they could do more of that transaction, right? So they're saying, okay, I need less effort, more capability. So if you were the coffee shop owner, you want to focus on the fact that I need to get customer lifetime value for these people to do something that makes them want to buy more lattes so I can have better revenue. So what can you do if you were this person? Create a loyalty program. Well, Starbucks did that. They kind of messed it up recently, but they used to have a great loyalty program, right? Yeah, you used to go buy that latte just so you could get the star, so you could go get the free one, right? Great loyalty program. They figured that out. It's like, we have to have a loyalty program. They used to have customized profiles. I used to go to that same Starbucks 8 miles away because they knew me by my name, right? I don't know if they saw another brown guy walk in and called the same name, but I didn't know that. I didn't care. They knew. It made me feel special every time I went there, right? To the point where the barista would know what I was going to order because it's predictable. They already had the shots going and all that was getting ready, right? Now they have the app, so if it's a busy Starbucks, you can use the app. You can just go pick it up and things. So think about it. The computer is picking up these trends that you have. The person is not doing it. It's automation, but they're doing that as well. They correct mistakes immediately. They still do that. Oh, you didn't order that? That's all right. I'll make it. They won't sit there and have a bickering conversation like, oh, look, I heard you say that. No, they just immediately say, and that's why sometimes if you go into Starbucks, you'll see some drinks that are not claimed because somebody didn't want it or whatever they did. They fix immediately, right? Obviously, they call you by name, they validate you, they respect you. And sometimes, when I go to Starbucks, I have to use names that are easy to spell, right? So my name is Ayman, A-Y-M-A-N. If I say Ayman, they put an I in a man. Or if I say amen, then they're putting like amen, like in prayer. I'm like, no, that's not it either. So sometimes they'll use Ivan, because if you say it really fast, it sounds like Ayman. Ivan, right? But then I'll stand there, I'm like, where's my coffee? Because they're calling Ivan like for 5 minutes. I'm like, I have no idea whose coffee that is, right? So they want you to get to know you. And then they sometimes will upsell, right? Some Starbucks baristas will do that. They'll upsell you something like, extra shot maybe, or, you want drizzle of caramel on top. So in this case, this coffee shop owner could do something like that too, right? Create a loyalty program, create an upsell program, only for the purpose of customer lifetime value, because you want that person to come doing it, because the idea of, I think you go back, right? Is to get the specialty buyer to buy more, because you will get better revenue there. So that's how you want to do a customer lifetime value. So what does that mean? Customer's outcome is the success that you're looking for. You have to create that path. You have to create the journey, right? What do you want out of this experience? Let's go figure that out. I'll use an example of an iPhone. It's a real example. When influencing became a thing, people were making money just being influencers. One of the things Apple noticed was these influencers had like cameras like that, like $5,000 rigs. And the experience they realized was they were not storing pictures in iCloud. They were storing it whatever cloud they had, because they would edit it, do all these cool things. And it wasn't growing Apple's iCloud cloud platform storage. They said, why is that? Well, is it too expensive? Well, it's like 99 cents for like, I think 100 gigs or something like that. It's not really terribly expensive now. So they couldn't figure out what's going on. It turns out it was the quality of the camera. These influencers wanted to look cool. They wanted to look better, the lighting, the angles, the face. That's why they had those $5,000 rigs of cameras and equipment and, the sticky thing, whatever. They had these things to make their experience look good. They were influencing. The light had to be perfect. The yoga pose had to be perfect, right? They had to do those things. Apple started investing money on the camera. That's why they have these like 8 circles in the back of a phone now that will take the amazing picture. Because they realize if they can do that, the influencer will give up on that big camera and use their phone, and maybe there's enough vanity, well, they'll take 20 pictures and they'll love each of those pictures and they want to save it, so now they're saving it in cloud storage from the phone, right? So fix the camera to get more cloud storage consumption up. So you have to understand that path of what the success for the customer winning is. Well, they didn't go to the software development and say, let's make storage easy, simple, better. They went to the product guys that make lenses and cameras and all of that thing that would fit in nicely into that box that you stood in line in a rain to go get, right? That's why you have to understand that path of success. What does it have to be? And then you have to be obsessed by it, right? So think of iPhone again, right? They made a commercial about their phone using the iPhone legitimately, and then put it on one of these big events, like a Super Bowl-like event, to show that, hey, our camera is so good, you couldn't tell it was made by an iPhone. And that makes everybody go do different things and influence on that. And sometimes you have to change the narrative. What's not working? All tech companies will give up products that didn't work, right? They'll just abandon it. If you've been, I'll digress. I went to a bar recently, and the bouncer barely looked at the card, right? And the joke was that the bouncer just needs to look at the 2 digits. If it says 19, doesn't matter, right? We're in the 20 segment right now. If it says 19, they're just like, whatever, I don't care, right? They just look for the 2 in the first digit of the date of birth. So you have to kind of focus on that. You have to change the narrative. Like something is not there anymore that is applicable. So you have to pivot and change your mindset. Clippy, remember Microsoft Clippy? If you don't, you belong to the 20 generation. So there's things that don't work. You have to give up on it. Google has like a website that tells you all the things they have killed. The graveyard, Google graveyard. All the things they tried that didn't work, they put it in there, because you have to do those kind of things. So you have to focus on what's not working. And if you're not able to do that, your customer success journey is not going to go anywhere. You're going to get to that place where you're fighting churn, you're fighting bad product reviews. You have to know that some things are not working. You don't have to have all the answers either. It's okay to say, I work for Microsoft, I learned one hard lesson. We don't have answers for everything, but we have to make friends with the people that have answers, right? You have to be partner-oriented, and you have to create the partner ecosystem for it. So in the commercial enterprise sense, not business to business, we have customer success people that focus exclusively on partners. That's their job. to make sure that you can solve a problem for us together and we'll make it worthwhile, the journey. So there's many layers of the customer success opportunity that you would have, right? So you don't have to have all the answers. Going back to that value conversation, they're trying to make a relationship with you. If you can solve it, they'll always buy it from you. And it's okay to say, hey, you know what, you need to band-aid it between here and there, but it'll work if you do it this way, because they're looking for that humility and humbleness that comes with it. Empathy is important, especially nowadays. You can't have a conversation without empathy. You have to have the ability to connect with them at that intimate level and be sincere. There's no game in lying. Like our buyers are intelligent. The days of kind of what I used to call the IBMing it, show up with white shirt and black tie and just like kind of take them to golf. They're smart. When they ask you a question, they're basically trying to play stump the chump. They're trying to see if you know it and if you're worth talking to me. That's why I say success exists on its own, because if you're associated with sales, your customer success organization is not going to work. Because they're going to say, oh, you're a seller, whatever. You're just trying to do something different with me. So you have to be sincere with that humility in there. Revisit, revisit, revisit. You have to do sentiment analysis, right? Customers have bad days, and sometimes they'll have good days. If you don't replay the conversation, that's where technology and tools come into place. If you have transcription that can pick up sentiment analysis, you can do very good things with that. And tools that help you in that will make your customer service journey equally well. A lot of my customer success sponsors on the other side of the customer, they're not coming to me because they had a good day. They're coming to me because something did not work, and if you don't pick up on the sentiment of what's troubling them, especially in today's economy where things have to be very fast, quick, you're going to miss out a big clue that you otherwise are not going to be there. So listening is hugely important. If we're going to hire customer success people, look for those types that can actually carry a conversation without the answers. Like, hey, I don't know, but I can get you the right person for that thing that you're asking for. I don't have to have all the answers. If you have all the answers, not a good customer success person. It's not a good fit. Send them to product. So I have some analogies, and I'm going to use some things from the internet. Customer success, often people would say it's binary, on or off, right? But in the world of quantum, if you don't know quantum is that thing. It could be on, it could be off, it could be on and off at the same time. It depends on observability. So if you're like, a geek and a scientist type, essentially quantum says it's on for you if you saw it and it was on. It's off for the person that saw it and it was off. So observability matters. It'll make you go crazy if you try to do it from the physics point of view, but customer success is like that. It could be on, it could be off, it could be both on and off, and it could be different on two different sides. You're looking at it saying, I had a great sale. This customer, they love my product. Another side of the customer's like, you know what? They missed the bucket. They totally missed it, right? So you have to understand the customer may not be seeing it off and on just like you think they're seeing it. They may be seeing it the other way. So you have to have the observability. You have to observe it from their perspective. The other analogy I use is marathon. If you ever watched Seinfeld, there was this one episode where Kramer's standing there on the sideline with a cup of hot coffee, and the runner's coming down thinking he's got a cup of water, and he grabs it and burns himself, scalds him, right? You have to understand in the marathon context, if you think of a marathon, if you're a marathon runner, if I'm the customer success person, I'm at the starting gate, I'm seeing you run off, right? And then I get in my car, I drive to the end, and I wait for you. Many things could happen between that at that time. You could have given up. I'm waiting. Hey, customer bought my product. They should be using it. I'm waiting, I'm waiting, I'm waiting. You may have taken the wrong path. You're off in La La Land, right? You got detoured, diverted. You may just have said, you know what, I screw this. I hit my wall, I'm gonna go sit at the Dunkin' Donuts and have a donut right now, right? So how do you keep up with that? Well, if you're a marathoner, you can do one or two things. Run with the customer, not a good idea. But today's technology, if you're really a runner, they have those chips in the computer, in a shoe, and they have these gates. You go online, you can see where your runner is, what their pace is. Why is that important? What if they're doing 4 million miles and suddenly they're not 8 million miles, right? So they're slowed down. Something's wrong. You should go investigate, right? Why are they slowing down in the marathon? Maybe they're hurt. Maybe they're distracted, or something's going on. So you have to think of customer success like that. You have to know where your customer is on the journey. You don't have to run it with them. If you're running, you're kind of hardcore. And that works in the defense industry. Like I'll tell you that we do defense work. The people that are selling to the military are like ex-pilots, soldiers, because they're running the marathon with the customer. They're saying, hey, you want to fight a battle, this is how you do it, right? Because I've been there, I've run it, I know it. But in technology, sometimes you don't have to be that way. But you have to know. So you make sure that if they're going to run a marathon, check their time, see where they are, where are they supposed to be, the milestones they're supposed to hit. The other one is this How I Met Your Mother. It's another TV sitcom show. Barney is this character that is so cool that he can do anything. And he said, I'm going to wake up and run the marathon. Like no training, he's drinking like booze the night before. He runs the marathon. He even does this, finger gun thing where it's like so cool. But it ends in the episode where he's so cool, he's taking the train home and his legs don't work anymore. So he's like sprawled out. So just because your customers are having a great time and they're running the marathon, they're waving you high fives and stuff, at the end of it, past the finish line, they could be in a mess, right? So you have to understand that the analogy here is it could be on and off, it could be both at the same time. If it's a marathon, just go with it because you don't want the coffee incident from a runner that thought it was water, but it wasn't. So know where you are with your journey. And then even after they finish the journey, you should follow up. And if good customer success is that, just because you sold the product, they used it, boom, I'm out. No. Follow up. They may have something that happens beyond that. So I'll stop with questions. 2 minutes to go on the clock. Lunch is almost ready. I'll take questions if you have anything. I want to thank all the sponsors that have done this thing for us. I've had the chance to be here 3-4 times now. I did once remote. I'll be again in San Francisco, Vegas. If you guys want to be a part of this, this is how we learn from each other. So if you don't have any questions, we can break and get the lane on the lunch faster than everybody else, get good pickings. Questions? No? I'll be here all day. I'll be here tomorrow too. Excellent. Very cool.